The moment Julius pulled me into the shadowed corner of our family hallway and pressed his lips against mine, my entire world tilted on its axis. My sister's boyfriend had just ignited a fire that would burn through every lie I'd built to protect myself, exposing the truth none of us were ready to face right there in the heart of our American home. I stumbled back, hitting the wall with my shoulder, the taste of mint from his gum still lingering on my lips. My heart hammered so loud I was sure Emily would hear it from the living room where she was setting the table for dinner. Julius stood there, his dark eyes wide with the same panic I felt, his tall frame blocking the light from the kitchen doorway. He was 28, athletic from weekend hikes around Sacramento, with short-cropped black hair that always looked perfectly styled even after a long day at his marketing firm. Nathaniel, 26, still crashing at my parents' suburban house to save for my own place, had known him for 11 months as the charming guy who made my sister laugh and brought flowers on Sundays. Now he was something else entirely, something dangerous and real. What the hell was that? I whispered, my voice cracking. Julius ran a hand through his hair, glancing over his shoulder. I don't know, Nate, I couldn't stop myself. You looked at me the way you do sometimes, and it hit me. I've been fighting it for months. His words hung between us, heavy like the humid California evening air drifting through the open window. I wanted to yell at him, to shove him away, to pretend it never happened, but my feet stayed glued to the hardwood floor our parents had refinished last summer. Emily called out from the other room, guys, dinner is almost ready, come help with the salad. Her voice was light, full of that easy happiness she carried everywhere, the kind that made our conservative neighborhood in Sacramento feel warm and safe. I forced a smile even though my stomach twisted. Coming, we both said at the same time, our voices overlapping in a way that felt too familiar. Julius stepped back, giving me space, but his eyes lingered a second longer than they should have. I turned and walked into the kitchen, my mind racing through every dinner, every family barbecue, every casual touch on the shoulder that now felt loaded with meaning I had refused to see. My parents arrived home minutes later, Dad carrying grocery bags, Mom chatting about her book club. They greeted Julius like the son they never had, clapping him on the back and asking about his latest campaign at work. I chopped tomatoes at the counter, avoiding his gaze, but every time our elbows brushed while reaching for the same bowl, my skin burned. Emily wrapped her arms around Julius from behind, kissing his cheek, and I felt something sharp twist in my chest. Was it jealousy? Was it guilt? Or was it the first crack in the wall I had built around myself since college, when I first wondered why girls never felt right but never dared say it out loud? That night after dinner, we all sat on the back porch under string lights, Dad grilling stories about his construction crew, Mom knitting a scarf for her upcoming trip to visit my aunt in Oregon. Julius sat across from me, his knee accidentally bumping mine under the table, sending a jolt straight through me. I pulled away too quickly, and Emily noticed. You okay, Nate? You look a little pale. I shrugged, just tired from the deadline at the design firm. Lies came easy after years of practice. But inside I was unraveling, replaying that kiss, the way his hand had cupped my face for that split second, like he had been waiting forever. Later, when everyone went to bed, I lay in my childhood room, staring at the ceiling fan spinning lazily. The house was quiet except for the distant hum of the freeway. I heard soft footsteps in the hall, and my door creaked open. Julius stood there silhouetted in the hallway light, wearing only sweatpants, his expression raw. Nate, we need to talk, he whispered. I sat up, my pulse racing again. This was the moment everything changed, and I had no idea if I was ready for the fallout. The next morning, breakfast felt like walking through a minefield. Mom made pancakes, the kind with blueberries that reminded me of summers at the lake. Emily teased Julius about burning the toast last weekend, and he laughed, but his eyes kept flicking to me. I focused on my coffee mug, tracing the chip on the rim from when I was 12, and dropped it after striking out at Little League. Dad talked about the big game on TV later, and I nodded along, pretending everything was normal. But nothing was normal anymore. Julius had crossed a line, and I had let him. Worse, I wanted him to cross it again. By afternoon, Emily dragged us all to the farmer's market downtown, the one with the fresh peaches and live music on weekends. Julius walked beside me while Emily and Mom browsed jewelry stalls. His shoulder brushed mine on purpose this time. Last night, I meant what I said, he murmured low enough that no one else heard. I've never felt this with anyone, not even your sister. Scares the hell out of me, Nate. I stopped at a stand of heirloom tomatoes, my hands shaking as I picked one up. You can't say that here, not now. But my voice lacked conviction. Part of me, the part one had buried since my first confusing crush on my high school soccer coach, wanted to hear more, wanted to believe this could be real. The rest of the day blurred into small moments, loaded glances, shared laughs that felt too intimate, and the growing weight of what we were hiding. By evening, when Emily went to bed early complaining of a headache, Julius found me in the garage tinkering with my old bike. He closed the door behind him, the single bulb overhead casting long shadows. We stood there for what felt like hours, just breathing the same air. Then he stepped closer. Tell me you don't feel it too. His voice was barely above a whisper. I swallowed hard, meeting his eyes. I do. God help me, Julius, I do. That admission hung between us, fragile and terrifying. Outside, the crickets chirped, and somewhere down the street a neighbor laughed, but inside that garage 2 worlds were colliding, and I knew there was no going back. The days that followed that garage confession stretched like rubber bands ready to snap. I threw myself into work at the design firm, editing logos for a local brewery campaign until my eyes burned, but every spare second my mind drifted back to Julius. He had gone back to his apartment in Midtown Sacramento, the one with the balcony overlooking the river, but he texted me constantly. Simple things at first. Did you see the game last night? Then deeper. Can't stop thinking about what I said. Each message lit a spark I couldn't extinguish. Emily noticed my distraction during our weekly sibling lunch at the taco truck near the Capitol building. You're acting weird, Nate, she said, poking my arm with a tortilla chip. Everything okay at work? I lied again, blaming deadlines, but the guilt gnawed at me like the spicy salsa on my tongue. She loved Julius with her whole heart, the way she planned their future trips to Yosemite and talked about maybe adopting a dog next year. How could I be the one to shatter that? Julius showed up unannounced on Wednesday evening with takeout Thai food, claiming he missed Mom's cooking, but really he missed me. We ate on the back porch again, the family scattered, Dad at his poker night, Mom at yoga. Emily curled up with a book inside, leaving us alone under the same string lights that had witnessed my first panic after the kiss. He told me about growing up in a small town outside Portland where admitting you liked boys meant getting your locker trashed. I never let myself feel it fully until you, Nate, he said, his fork pausing over pad CEW. You make me want to be honest for once. I shared my own pieces, the college party where I kissed a guy named Ryan and then spent 3 years convincing myself it was just beer and curiosity. The therapy sessions I quit because talking about it felt too dangerous in our tight-knit community. Our stories wove together like the river currents we could hear faintly from the porch, and for the first time in years I didn't feel alone in my skin. But the guilt grew heavier with every shared secret. Friday night, Emily planned a movie marathon, the 3 of us on the couch with popcorn and blankets. Halfway through the comedy, Julius' hand brushed mine under the blanket, sending electricity up my arm. I pulled away too fast and Emily paused the movie. You two are quiet tonight. Julius recovered smoothly, just tired from work, babe. She bought it, snuggling into his side, but I couldn't watch the screen anymore. Later, when she fell asleep, head on his shoulder, he looked at me across the room, his eyes full of the same storm I felt. We slipped outside to the driveway, the cool night air doing nothing to calm my racing thoughts. This is killing me, Nate, he whispered. Wanting you and pretending with her. I don't know how much longer I can do it. I leaned against my car, the metal cold through my t-shirt. Then what we tell her and watch our family explode. Dad would never speak to me again. Mom would cry for weeks. Julius stepped closer, his breath warm on my face. Or we walk away right now and I stay with Emily forever, pretending. The choice hung there, brutal and impossible. Saturday brought a family hike in the foothills, the trails dusty and lined with oak trees. Emily led the way, chatting about work at the elementary school where she taught 2nd grade. Julius and I lagged behind, our conversation turning serious again. He asked about my dreams, the ones I had buried, the graphic novel I wanted to illustrate, the apartment in San Francisco I imagined sharing with someone who understood. You could have that with me, he said quietly when Emily was out of earshot. If we were brave. Brave. The word tasted bitter because bravery meant hurting the person who had always had my back. That night back home, I lay awake listening to the rain start tapping on the roof. Julius had driven home, but his words echoed. I pulled out my sketchbook, drawing his face from memory, the strong jaw, the kind eyes, the vulnerability he showed only to me. The drawing felt like a betrayal and a promise all at once. Sunday brunch with the neighbors turned tense when Mr. Ramirez from across the street made a casual joke about how real men don't cry at movies. Dad laughed along and I caught Julius' jaw tighten. Later in the kitchen, while helping with dishes, he muttered under his breath, "That's the world we're up against, Nate." I nodded, drying a plate, my hands unsteady. We were building something fragile, a connection that felt more real than anything I had known, but every laugh from Emily in the next room reminded me of the cost. By the end of the weekend, I knew the line we had crossed wasn't just physical. It was emotional, and it was pulling us both toward a decision that would change everything. When Julius left that evening, he hugged me longer than necessary, his whisper barely audible. "Think about us." I stood on the porch watching his taillights disappear down the street, already knowing I couldn't stop thinking about us, even if it destroyed the family that had raised me. The following week blurred into a series of stolen moments that left me exhausted and exhilarated. Work suffered, I missed a client deadline, and my boss pulled me aside with concerned eyes, but I couldn't focus when every notification on my phone might be from Julius. He started coming over more often under the guise of helping Emily plan their anniversary dinner. One evening while she was in the shower, he found me in the basement sorting old photo albums. The air smelled of dust and memories, and when he closed the door behind us, the world narrowed to just the two of us. His hand found mine, tentative at first, then sure. We didn't kiss, but the way his thumb traced circles on my palm felt more intimate than anything I had experienced. "Talk to me, Nate," he said softly. "What's stopping you from saying yes to this?" I pulled out a photo of Emily and me as kids building sandcastles at the beach. "She's my sister, Julius. She's everything to me." He nodded, but his eyes were sad. "And what about you? What are you to yourself?" The question hit like a punch because I had no answer. I had spent years being the reliable son, the supportive brother, the guy who dated girls casually to keep questions at bay. Admitting I wanted Julius meant admitting I was gay, and that truth carried weight in our world of backyard barbecues and church potlucks. Thursday brought a near miss. Emily came home early from a teacher's meeting and found us sitting close on the couch watching a documentary about climate change. Our knees touched, and when she walked in, Julius jumped up a little too quickly, offering to make coffee. She laughed it off, but later in the kitchen she asked me quietly, "Is everything okay between you and Julius? He seems distracted." I lied through my teeth, saying he was stressed at work. The guilt after that conversation kept me up until dawn. I texted Julius at 3 in the morning. "We have to stop." His reply came immediately. "Meet me at the park tomorrow, lunch break." I went even though every instinct screamed no. We sat on a bench near the duck pond, the Sacramento sun warm on our backs. He listened while I poured out my fears about losing my family, about the whispers at holiday gatherings, about never being able to hold his hand in public without wondering who was watching. When I finished, he took my hand right there in the open where anyone could see. "I don't have all the answers, Nate, but I know pretending is killing us both." His words lingered as I drove home, the park fading in my rearview mirror like a dream I wasn't ready to wake from. That weekend, Emily organized a game night with our cousins. The living room filled with laughter, cards, and board games, but I felt like an actor in my own life. Julius played along, winning at charades, but every time our eyes met across the table, the secret passed between us like a current. During a break in the kitchen, he cornered me again. "I can't keep doing this half-life," he whispered. "Either we figure it out or I walk away for good." The ultimatum hung heavy, and I spent the rest of the night replaying it while cousins teased me about being quiet. Later, alone in my room, I stared at the ceiling fan again, the same one that had witnessed my first panic weeks ago. I thought about my friends from college, the ones who had come out and faced rejection or acceptance in equal measure. I thought about the pride parade I had watched from the sidelines last year, too scared to join. Julius was offering me a chance to step into the light, but the shadow of family loyalty felt suffocating. Monday morning brought clarity in the form of a phone call from my best friend Marcus, who lived across town. We met for coffee at the corner cafe and I spilled everything, the kiss, the talks, the guilt. He listened without judgment, his eyes steady. "Nate, you deserve to be happy," he said. "But you also owe it to Emily to be honest before this blows up." His words echoed as I drove to work, and by afternoon I had made a decision. I texted Julius. "Tonight, after everyone sleeps, we talk for real." The hours dragged until midnight when the house was silent. He slipped in through the back door we had left unlocked, and we sat on the floor of my room, backs against the bed. The conversation poured out hours of fears, hopes, and what-ifs. When he finally leaned in and kissed me again, it was slow and full of everything we had been holding back. No rush, no panic, just truth. But as his lips left mine, the sound of footsteps in the hall froze us both. "Emily." We pulled apart, hearts pounding, and I knew the clock on our secret was ticking faster than ever. The near discovery that night changed everything. Emily had only been getting water, but the close call left Julius and me shaken. He left before dawn, promising to keep his distance for a few days to think. Those days stretched into an ache I carried everywhere. At work I stared at blank screens, sketching nothing but his face over and over. Emily sensed the shift in me, bringing home my favorite ice cream one evening and asking if I wanted to talk. I almost broke then and there, but the words stuck in my throat. Instead, I hugged her tight, inhaling the familiar scent of her shampoo, and wondered how long I could keep protecting her from the truth that would break her heart. Julius returned on Friday with tickets to a baseball game, the Giants versus Dodgers, at the stadium downtown. Emily was thrilled, packing snacks and wearing her team jersey. The three of us drove together, the car filled with forced laughter and tension only Julius and I could feel. During the seventh-inning stretch, while Emily went for nachos, he leaned close in the stands. "I talked to my therapist this week, Nate. She thinks him bisexual, but the feelings for you are real." His honesty cracked something open in me, and I nodded, tears stinging my eyes from the stadium lights, or maybe from the weight lifting slightly. When Emily returned, we cheered for a home run, but inside I was cheering for the small step we had taken toward honesty. The following week brought external pressure when Dad invited Julius to help with the annual garage cleanup. The two of them worked side by side, sorting tools and old boxes while I painted the fence nearby. Dad clapped Julius on the back, calling him a good man, the kind any father would want for his daughter. The words landed like bricks, and when Dad went inside for lemonade, Julius wiped sweat from his brow. "I hate lying to him, Nate. To all of them." I wanted to tell him it was okay to wait, but the words felt hollow. That evening after dinner, Mom pulled me aside in the laundry room. "You and Julius seem closer lately," she said, folding towels. "It's nice to see you two getting along." Her innocent comment twisted the knife deeper, and I escaped to my room shaking. Saturday night, we risked another private talk, this time at a quiet coffee shop on the edge of town where no one knew us. Over lattes, Julius opened up about the bullying he faced in high school, the nights he cried alone, wondering if he would ever be normal. I shared my own hidden moments, the apps I had downloaded, and deleted the forums I read at 3 a.m. Our hands touched across the table, and for once I didn't pull away. The connection felt like oxygen after drowning. But on the drive home, my phone buzzed with a text from Emily. "Where are you guys? I thought we were watching that new show." The lie I typed back burned in my chest, and when I got home, her disappointed face made me question every choice. Sunday brought a family barbecue with neighbors and cousins. The backyard filled with smoke from the grill and laughter, but I felt like an outsider. Julius manned the grill beside Dad, flipping burgers, while Emily chatted with the women. I stood at the edge, nursing a soda, watching them and realizing the life I wanted with Julius would mean losing this, the easy belonging, the Sunday rituals. When the sun set and fireworks lit the sky for the neighbor's kid birthday, Julius found me by the fence. "I can't keep pretending, Nate. We need to decide." His words followed me into sleep that night, and I woke Monday knowing the tension couldn't hold much longer. A misunderstanding with Emily over a forgotten grocery list escalated into her snapping at both of us, and I saw the first cracks in her trust. The pressure from friends who noticed my distraction at happy hour, the societal whispers at work about diversity training, all pushed me closer to the edge. By the end of the week, I knew the breaking point was coming, and when it did, our carefully built world would shatter right where it had started in our family home. The explosion happened on a Tuesday evening that started ordinary enough. Emily had worked late grading papers, so Julius and I were alone in the house preparing dinner. The kitchen smelled of garlic and herbs, and for once we let ourselves be close, his hand on my waist as I stirred the sauce. We talked about the future in whispers, a small apartment, maybe a dog, the simple dreams that felt revolutionary. Then the front door opened and Emily walked in early, her keys jingling. She froze in the doorway, seeing us too close, the way his hand lingered. "What is going on?" Her voice was small at first, then rising. Julius stepped back, but it was too late. The truth spilled out in halting words from both of us, the kiss, the talks, the feelings we could no longer deny. Emily staggered back, her face crumpling. My boyfriend and my brother. In our house. The betrayal in her eyes cut deeper than any knife. Dad arrived home to shouting. Mom dropped her purse in the foyer. The living room became a battlefield, accusations flying like shrapnel. Emily screamed at Julius for using her while Dad turned to me, his face red. Is this some phase, Nathaniel? What about the family? What will people say? Mom cried quietly on the couch, torn between her children. Julius stood tall, but his voice broke as he defended us. I never meant to hurt anyone, but I love him. The word love hung in the air, electric and final. I tried to explain my own journey, the years of hiding, the way Julius made me feel seen, but every sentence sounded selfish against Emily's tears. She ran to her room, slamming the door, and the sound echoed through the house like a gunshot. The hours that followed blurred into painful conversations on the porch, Dad pacing, Mom trying to mediate. Julius left at midnight, promising to give space, but his last look at me was full of quiet strength. I sat alone in the dark, replaying every decision, the misunderstandings, the moments I could have stopped it all. Sleep never came, and by morning the house felt like a tomb. Emily wouldn't look at me at breakfast, her eyes swollen. Work was impossible. I called in sick and drove aimlessly around the city, past the park where Julius and I had talked, past the stadium where hope had flickered. When he texted asking to meet, I agreed at a neutral cafe downtown. We sat outside, the traffic humming around us, and he took my hand openly. I know this is hell, Nate, but I can't go back to pretending. The sacrifice was clear. Emily might never forgive us, the family might fracture, but denying ourselves meant dying slowly inside. We talked for hours about therapy, about boundaries, about the courage it would take to rebuild. By the time I drove home, the sun was setting, and I knew the worst was behind us, but the healing would take years. That night, Emily confronted me alone in the hallway, her voice steady despite the tears. I love you, Nate, but I need time. And Julius, I can't see him right now. Her words were a lifeline and a wound all at once. Mom hugged me later, whispering, I just want you happy, but her eyes showed the struggle with our conservative roots. Dad remained silent for days, his disappointment a heavy blanket over the house. Julius and I stole phone calls late at night, sharing the pain and the small victories, like Marcus offering his couch if I needed space. The betrayal had exposed everything, but in the rubble I found pieces of myself. I had never known the man who could stand in his truth even when the ground shook. The family home that had sheltered my childhood now echoed with the consequences of our choices, but it also held the beginning of something new. Months passed like seasons in Sacramento, the heat of summer giving way to cooler evenings and the slow mending of wounds. Emily moved out to a small apartment near her school, needing distance, and I respected that, even though her absence left an empty chair at Sunday dinners. Julius and I took things slow, meeting in public at first coffee shops, hikes along the American River where we could talk without fear. Therapy became our anchor, weekly sessions where I unpacked years of hiding and he faced his own guilt. The societal pressures didn't vanish. Neighbors whispered at block parties, old friends asked careful questions, but with each honest conversation I grew stronger. Dad eventually sat down with me in the garage one Saturday, his hands greasy from working on the truck. I don't understand it all, son, but you're my boy. That simple acceptance meant more than any grand speech. Mom baked extra cookies for Julius when he visited, quietly showing her support in her own way. Friendships shifted too. Marcus became a steady presence, introducing us to his circle of accepting friends, and for the first time I attended a small pride gathering not as a spectator but as myself. Julius left his job for a better one across town, giving us space to build something independent. We found a tiny apartment overlooking the river, the balcony perfect for morning coffee and quiet talks. The romantic moments came naturally now, walks where we held hands, openly dinners where we laughed without looking over our shoulders. One evening under the same string lights we had once shared with Emily, Julius pulled me close. "We made it, Nate," he whispered. "Not without scars, but we made it." I kissed him then freely, the happiness we had glimpsed in secret now ours in the light. Emily and I rebuilt slowly, lunches that turned into longer talks. She met someone new, a fellow teacher, and in time she even invited Julius and me to a group barbecue. The forgiveness wasn't complete, but it was real, and that was enough. The family home remained a gathering place, holidays still filled with laughter, though now with new understanding. I finally finished my graphic novel inspired by the journey, and Julius cheered loudest at the small launch party. Looking back at the boy who froze in that hallway kiss, I saw how far we had come through every confrontation, every sacrifice, every awakening. Love had cost us pieces of the past, but it had given us a future built on truth. As I stand on our balcony now watching the river flow, I know the path was worth every tear. The men we became, stronger, kinder, more alive, prove that growth often begins in the hardest choices. True or false? True love should never come at the expense of family harmony.